Shubhodayam, Andariki Namaskaramlu. Today is the second day of research topics. Today, CSR Prabhu Garu will take the class himself. Now, first we'll have Vande Mataram, then Prarthana, and then we'll start the session. Request CC Babu Garu to start Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malaya Jasitalam, Jasya Syamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram. Subhrajyosna pulakitayamini pullakusumita drumadala shobhini suhasini sumadhura bhashini sukhadam varadam mataram vande mataram vande mataram. Namaskar.
ధన్యవాదములండి.
Namaskar.
చాలా చిట్టిబాబు గారు చాలా బాగా పాడారు. నౌ వసుంధరాజీ ప్లీజ్.
సర్వేభ్యః నమస్కారాः. ప్రథమం ఏకం నిమిషం ధ్యానం, అనంతరం త్రివారం ఓంకారం. ధ్యానం 1 minute. ఓంకారం. శుక్లాంబరధరం విష్ణుం శశివర్ణం చతుర్భుజం ప్రసన్నవదనం ధ్యాయేత్ సర్వవిఘ్నోపశాంతయే. సరస్వతి నమస్తుభ్యం వరదే కామరూపిణి విద్యారంభం కరిష్యామి సిద్ధిర్భవతు మే సదా. శరదిందు సమాకారే పరబ్రహ్మస్వరూపిణి వాసరాపీఠ నిలయే సరస్వతి నమోస్తుతే. అసతో మా సద్గమయ తమసో మా జ్యోతిర్గమయ మృత్యోర్మా మృతంగమయ. ఓం మాతృదేవో భవ పితృదేవో భవ ఆచార్య దేవో భవ అతిథి దేవో భవ. ఓం గురుర్బ్రహ్మ గురుర్విష్ణుః గురుర్దేవో మహేశ్వరః గురుః సాక్షాత్ పరం బ్రహ్మ తస్మై శ్రీ గురవే నమః. సర్వేభ్యః నమస్కారాः. ధన్యవాదాः.
నమస్కారాः. ధన్యవాదాः వసుంధరా మహోదయ. Now let us request Prabhuji to start the session, please. Please, sir. Prabhu garu, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah,
Sir.
your video
Can
is
you
not on.
Video on.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you are okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this session is going to be interactive, and I'm going to explain the research projects which we are taking up. Now, there are 3 projects we have offered. One is on Viman Shastra, other is on computer science, artificial intelligence aspects of Sanskrit grammar. The third is on Dharma Yoga as a common framework for all religions and even science. So first I will explain in the same sequence, maybe the other sequence. The group 1 is computer science, artificial intelligence. First I will explain that. Then I will go to Viman Shastra, and finally I will talk about Dharma Yoga. Now regarding the computer science aspects of Sanskrit and its grammar, most of you might have already learned Sanskrit through some organization like Sanskrit Bharati or VSS. People like Prabhu have been doing human service. Sanskrit Bharati has been doing human service for many years, decades. But I want to emphasize on one fact, that that kind of learning of Sanskrit is only useful for conversation or for simple sentences formation or for understanding simple sentences, etc., etc. That is not the core heart of Sanskrit. That is just the basic. What do they call pravesa, etc., etc. They're just kind of giving you entry into the world of Sanskrit. But the real soul and heart and the brain of Sanskrit is something different, not what these people are teaching. Let me be very frank. So what that real soul, heart and brain of Sanskrit is Panini's Ashtadhyayi. You might have heard the name Panini. Panini was living in Takshashila University. He was a professor there, which is now in Pakistan. Some people say he was born in Kashmir, and some people say he was born in Afghanistan or whatever, near Afghanistan, Northwest Frontier Province. And in fact, it is also said that the word Panini is not his actual name. It is a title. It means Saraswati herself. He was the greatest scholar of his times, around 7th century BC. And Panini wrote, along with his group, of course, he is known as Maharshi Panini, along with his group of students or scholars, has authored what is called the Ashtadhyayi chapter Panini grammar, which is a wonder of the world. And I am really surprised that the Sanskrit Bharati people and even VSS are not teaching that, because they themselves may not know it. So that Ashtadhyayi comprises of around 5,000 rules, what are called the production rules in terms of computer science, to give production or generation of all words in the language. In fact, he has not used the word Sanskrit anywhere. He has used the only word Bhasha. So that was the only Bhasha, only language, which was prevalent at his time as a literary or scholarly language, though there are many local languages like Magadhi, Avadhi, Sauraseni, which later exist even today, and some of them merged into become Hindi. So this Bhasha, Bhashayam, that is one of the sutras in the Bhasha. What he has done is, the first thing is he has developed codes and meta codes. That is, you see, I think you should stop this disturbance. People keep on coming and the bell keeps on ringing. So first thing he has used are what are called codes, and then meta codes, and then adhikara and anuvritti. I'll explain some of these concepts, which are core computer science, and he has used recursion also, and he has used steps similar to programming, which came later in 20th century, 1956, Ada Lovelace. So 7th century BC, first thing he has used codes like, ach and hal. We all know ach means vowels, hal means consonants. Why? Because there he has given one Pratyahara Sutras or Maheshwar Sutras, they are called. They are supposed to be the sounds generated when Lord Shiva played his Damaru while doing the Tandavam at Chidambaram. Ayun Rulrukke Wong Ayav Chayavaratlan Yamananam Javan Gadadas Javagadadas Kapajatao Kapai Sitasar Hal. That's what it is. It looks very funny, but that is the actual generation of the sounds given by the Damaru. Ayun Rulruk Ewong Ayav Chayavaratlan Yamananam Javan Gadadas Javagadadas Kapajatao Kapai Sitasar Hal. So these, when you write down, first is A and last is La. That is, and if you take each part, Ayun Rulruk Evong Ayouch. A to Cha is Ach. So Ayivu Rulru Evo Ayav. That is Ach. Adyaman Telugu Achulu and on. So and Ayun, Ayivu is and. Ak and Ayivu Rulru, Ayun Rulruk. So from first sentence to the first letter to the last letter, whatever is covered is called that particular code. I hope you have understood what is coding in Maheshwar Sutras, or these are called Maheshwar Sutras or Pratyahara Sutras, which are given before the Ashtadhyayi starts. Then using that, he has given the actual sutras of Panini. Vridhiradaich, that is the first sutra. At and Aich. Aich means I won't look evang, I ouch. So I ow, I ow. These three are Vridhi. So Adain Gunaha, A and Aong. A and Ao are called Gunas. That's why we have Gunasandhi. And Iko Yanachi. So like this, the first there are some definitions of codes, and then there are operations. So Iko Yanachi, that means if you have Ik, that means Ivurulru. And there is an Ach next to them. That means Ayurulru. Then there will be Ik. Yan, Ik will become Yan. Yan means Yavarala. So, this Gadadesh Sandhi is there. It is there in Telugu also. It is there in Sanskrit also. So under these circumstances, it becomes Yan. Now what is Hal? Hayavarala, Jamanada, Javan, Gadada, Jabagadada, Gabajada. What is Jash, Jabagadada? So that Yan will replace Ik. This is a rule. And now if you take Savarna Dirgha Sandhi, like Rama, Ravana plus Asura is equal to Ravana, Asura. We know that. So that is giving us Akas Savarne Dirghaha. If Ak is there, Ayururu, and Savarna is repeated next to it, then it will become Dirgha, long. Ravana plus Asura is Ravana Asura, because in A in Na and A in Asura, there are two same Savarna, Ak, and they become Dirgha. So all the rules are given like this, not just for Sandhis and Samasas, but also for basic word formations. Like how the word Ramaha has formed, or Ramasya has come. Our Sanskrit Bharati and VSS, they are not explaining these things. They simply say, okay, you mug up, Rama, 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 Bhyam, Rama, 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 we all mug up. But that is a rote learning method, which is wrong. Whereas here in Ashtadhyayi, they have given the mechanism in which why this Ramaya, Ramabhyam, Ramena gets formed. So for that, to get an idea, we have two types of words in Sanskrit language. That is the nouns and verbs, as you know. Totally, there are 4 parts of speech. So nouns and verbs are the most important. Then we have that they are called Nama and Kriya, and then we also have Nipata. They are all suffixes and prefixes, so we can ignore them for the time being. So if you take the nouns, like any noun root, if you take Rama as a root, you can take anything also. You can say ping pong also as a root, doesn't matter. Any root, Ardhavat, Adhatur, Aprachaya, Pratipadikam. The root is called Pratipadika. It can be anything, any word, which has a meaning, Ardhavat, Adhatu, and it is not a verb root, Aprachaya, and it is not a suffix. And if you take the, say, Rama, you have taken. Then, for the noun forms, we have 7 vibhaktis, as you know. And in Sanskrit, we have singular, dual, and plural, 3. So, Rama, Rama, why it is getting formed like that? So, the original prachaya, suffixes, like in Telugu, we have Dubu, Vulu, Prathama vibhakti, Ninnullan, Gurchi, Ditya vibhakti, Chetan, Chen, Tod, Son, Tritiya vibhakti, Korakunkai, Chaturthi vibhakti, Valanan, Kantan, Patti, Panchama vibhakti, Kinkun, Yokka, Lon, Lopalan, Shashti vibhakti, Andun, Indun, Nan, Saptami vibhakti. So similarly, in Sanskrit, just like Dumuvulu, we have Su of Jas. Su for singular, Au for dual, and Jas for plural. In Sanskrit, we have 3, singular, dual, and plural. So Su of Jas, Amauchas, Tabhyam His, Nyebhyam His, Nasibhyam His, Nasosam, Gio Sup. So this Su to Pa finally is called Sup. So these 21 are called Sup Prachayas. And whatever words are formed by adding them at the end to the root are called Subantas, or nouns. So when you take Rama, and suppose you want to have Tritiya Vibhakti, Ekavacham, that is Ta. So Rama and Ta. So in Ashtajhayi of Panini, he has given what will happen when Ta comes next to any other word. Rashabhyam, no, that is Ta Gasi Gasa Minnat Syaha. One sutra is there. So Ta Gasi Gas will become Ina At Sya. So Ta becomes Ina. So Rama plus Ina. By Gunasandhi it will become Ramena, but not Na. So Rashabhyam Noda Samanapade, there is one more sutra which says that if there is a Na next to any Ra, it will become Ra. So that's how it becomes Na, Ramena. So this is called Siddhi, Shabda Siddhi. Similarly, Ramaya, Ramat, Ramasya, Ramaya, all these things. So I attended one course in 1967 when I was 12 years. This course was offered by Dharmanand Shastri, who was a Vyakarana Shastri sent by Pandaniya Mahavidyalaya Varanasi. That Pandaniya Mahavidyalaya Varanasi was established by one Brahmadatta Jijnasu. We pray to him. So he was a greatest of grammarians. He established Pandaniya Mahavidyalaya at Moti Jheel at Varanasi. And this Dharmanand Shastri went from Secunderabad in his childhood. He was taken, this was our Arya Samaj activity, and he was trained in Ashtajhayi. So he came back to his native place and started teaching it in my own school, which is Mehboob College High School, to which Swami Vivekananda personally visited and gave a lecture before going to Chicago. It is in Secunderabad, opposite to Chandra Brothers. Now it is called SVIT, Swami Vivekananda Institute of Technology. So in that course, it was about 100 days. So there is one Saralatama Vidhi course, by attending which I became quite competent in understanding and translating Sanskrit words. And I even performed translations of books. A lot of people ask me when they listen to my lectures, where did you learn Sanskrit? Do you have MA in Sanskrit or you have BA? What is that you have studied? I studied nothing in Sanskrit. I only attended this course 3 months when I was 12 years old. And I topped the batch. And because of that, today I'm called as a Sanskrit scholar. Whereas people who have done MA, and BA or even sometimes PhD in Sanskrit, they don't have that knowledge. They did all superficial things, what is called the Kaumudi method and what are called the other methods. So they don't have the in-depth knowledge of Ashtadhyayi of Panini. So now why I'm telling all this, not to boast myself, but to emphasize the fact that this particular method of Panini's Ashtadhyayi, Saralatam Vidhi and others, they were the most powerful methods. And in fact, during the ancient times, even during the time of Yuan Sang Fang visiting India, only this method was being used. So this so-called Kaumudi method came recently. It's something like 16th century or 17th century. And because of that, it became very difficult for people to learn Sanskrit. As a result, people lost interest in Sanskrit. I'm being very blunt. So now that particular Ashtadhyayi method, which Panini himself gave in his own text called Ashtadhyayi, is so scientific that you can computerize it. So though I learned this Ashtadhyayi when I was in 12th year of my life, I didn't know any computer science or programming at that time because it didn't exist also. So, but the steps which I told you just now, like Rama, Ta becomes Indra, then this is Gunasandhi, Ramena, then one more sutra, then Ramena. So there are 4 or 5 steps. Similarly for every word, even for verb roots like Pathati, how Pathati has come. So there are prachayas for verbs. They're called ting, tiptasji, sipthastha, mipasmastha, atam thazatham dvamitvai mahing. So T2 is called ting. So when you say Rama plus, now there are 10 tenses or moods. They're called lakaras. Vartamane lat, parakshe lit, and one of them is used only in the Veda, other is a blessing, asir linga, other is an order, and other is a prayer, and so on. So moods are also there. So like for example, if you take present tense, simple present tense, Vartamane lat. So Ram, Patha plus lat. Lat means tiptasji, siptastham, pasmas. For Parasmaya and Atmane Padas, Tatam, Dhata, Satham, Dhami, Twahim, Haim. So Patha plus tip. And in the Panini Ashtadhyayi Sutra, there is a sutra called Halantyam. If there is a Antahal at the end of a word, it will become lost. Adarshanam lopaha, tasya lopaha. Adarshanam lopaha. It will be removed. So Pathati is formed. So similarly, Tiptas Ji, Patha Ji, Jhantaha, there is one sutra. Whenever Jaya is there, it becomes Anta. So Patha plus Ji becomes Pathan, Anti, Pathanti. So this way, every step is a character transformation. So now, those of you know programming might have realized by now that this is very similar to steps in programming. So now what happened in 1988, I went to IIT Madras and I saw one paper in the room of Professor Raghavan. And that paper was written by Subhash Kak, a great scholar of Hinduism who lives in America. He's a Kashmiri Brahmin. He's a very brilliant person. He wrote an introduction to my book on the physics of Vaisheshika also. That person wrote a paper, The Paninian Approach to Natural Language Processing. Natural language processing is a subject in artificial intelligence. Now, I was teaching artificial intelligence way back in 80s to MTech people of JNTU. Artificial intelligence comprises of many topics. First of all, what is an artificial intelligence problem as against a normal problem is normal problems have procedural solutions, whereas those problems which don't have a procedural solution, they're called heuristic solutions, are possible for such problems. They all come under artificial intelligence. And there are many topics in it. Natural language processing is one of the major topics. Then theorem proving, game playing, music generation, chess playing. And now we have a different subject called machine learning, which has become part of artificial intelligence in a big way. Now, those days, natural language processing was part of artificial intelligence. And What is natural language processing aiming at? It aims at understanding natural language, words, how the words are formed, how the words are generated, and how to make the machine, computer, generate words, or how to perform machine translation also. So now, this person, Subhash Kak, wrote this paper. He is a professor of electrical engineering, and he knows a certain amount of computer science and programming, though he's not a computer science professor. So he wrote a paper saying the Paulinia's approach of natural language processing. Normal natural language processing is being done in the modern times on the basis of English language and its grammar. Many scholars are there. Machine translation also has been done. So what he wrote in that paper is Panini gave a different independent approach of natural language processing. Because Panini lived in 7th century BC when there was no computer science or computer as we know today. How he can give natural language processing approach a part of artificial intelligence, which came today. So, but the methodology which he followed there, he is explained in that paper. So I immediately wrote a letter to him saying that, did you study Panini's Ashtadhyayi? Then he replied saying, no, I didn't study. I don't know anything. I just wrote this paper. Oh my God. Then I told him I studied it in my childhood. Let me see what we can do about it. So then I got in touch with my old teacher, Dharma Shastri, who came to Hyderabad. I'm talking of 1988 period. Then I was lucky to find a partner by name Per Raju. He is right now in Google, working in Google in Boston. At that time, he was working with JNTU as a lecturer of compilers in computer science. So he and I sat together and tried to do something about the Panini's Ashtadhyayi Sutras, how to make it implementable in computer science today. So what we did, we have taken the first step of Rama Shabda, Akaranta Pullinga, Rava Rava Rava, how these words can be generated by the machine by following the steps given in the Panini's Ashtadhyayi Sutras. Like I told you just now, how Ramayana comes, how Ramaya comes, how Ramaha comes, how Ramasya comes. So those sutras only we took and we coded in C language the same sutra in as a procedure in C language. So the first ever in history, a methodology of converting a Panini Sutra into a procedure in C language is what we could do. That was around 1988, 89. And I have applied for patent also. That receipt is still with me. And using that, we have coded, rather under my advice, Per Raju has coded 100 sutras which are used in the Nakaranta Pullinga Ramashabda Siddhi. And as a result, we could make the software, the machine generate all these words, which are mugged up normally by Sanskrit learners. Rava, 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 every word was being generated from the root by executing the rules in between. Of course, there were certain issues, some unsolved problems, but still we could achieve that. And I wanted to do similar thing for verbs and also other forms, ikaranta, ukaranta, halanta, and other noun forms, and 10 types of dhatupata ganas, that is verb roots, are in 10 categories given by verb root dictionary of Panini is called dhatupata. Of course, we couldn't proceed beyond that, and I found that it's a very complicated job. We require a lot of human manpower, and which we didn't have. So finally, what I decided, I'll switch over to modern languages like Hindi and Telugu. So I performed a design process of execution of the sutra similar to Sanskrit for Hindi and Telugu. Because you take Hindi, the Siddhi formation is only one step. Like Hindi also has got the prachayas like ne, ko, ke saath, ke dwara, ke liye. say, ka ke ki, ke andar. That's all. The Saptami Vibhakti is ke andar. So if you take each one of them, directly you add. There is no transformation. Ram ne, Ram ko, Ram ke liye, Ram ke vaste, Ram ke dwara. No changes of characters. Whereas in Telugu, there are only two step changes. If you take Rama, which is Akara, the Babu in Telugu. In Marathi, it may become something else. In Bengali, it will become Ramo. So, Ramu, it will become, and then do, Ramu, do. And then from Ditya Vibhakti onwards, Ni will be required to be added, Nigagamanam. Ramu Ni, Korako, Ramuni Yokka, Ramuni Kai, Ramuni Ki. So that Ni, the only two steps, extra steps. That's all for Telugu. Now, similarly, verbs. So we wrote all these programs. I took some 2 staff members under the cooperation of Birla Science Center, Dr. B.G. Siddharth, Birla Planetarium, where the money was spent to recruit 2 persons who coded in C language for Hindi and Telugu. So as a result, we could perform translation, Hindi to Telugu translation. So Hindi letters coming from Delhi to Andhra Secretariat, they were being, all this I did when I was with NIC Hyderabad. Gautam Mukherjee used to visit at that time. He didn't know that I was doing all these things. So this project was also completed. Then after that, those people left. They resigned. So we stopped the project. So why I'm telling all this is that recently, about 5-6 years ago, I wanted to get a PhD degree because my previous attempts at getting PhD degree in USA were all stalled because I left and came back. I joined a job due to personal reasons those days. So I wanted to finish PhD work. So I had to start this topic on this itself. So this I extended into what is called object knowledge model. So now I ask all of you one question. What is the language in which you think? If you say, no, I think in Bengali, I think in Telugu, that is wrong. That is only for expression. Because a baby who doesn't know any language will also think. A chimpanzee also thinks. A robot also thinks. How they are doing? They don't know any language. So what is the language in which the brain functions or the mind processes and thinking takes place? Of course, I found in my research and I made a claim that all knowledge, all thinking will happen in terms of objects. And what is knowledge? According to me, knowledge is a stream of objects. And those objects can be two categories, entities or activities. Entities means nouns, activities means verbs. You take any knowledge, like Rama killed Ravana. So Rama is an entity, Ravana is an entity, kill is an activity. Or you take any other sentence also. I read a book. I is an entity, book is an entity, reading is an activity. So even the baby in the cradle knows these two types of objects, entities and activities. Because the baby is recognizing mother and baby is recognizing father, baby is recognizing hunger and recognizing milk and drinking milk. Drinking milk is an activity. So as the baby grows, the number of objects, initially only 4 objects were there, mother, father, and milk and drink. And as the baby grows, the number of objects increases gradually. The baby keeps on adding, like grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle, one by one. These objects will be added. And the baby has a own language. Mama, papa, dada, big, baby, aga, and so on. So as the baby grows older and older, the number of objects will be added more and more. And the sounds associated with each of those objects, the baba, bappe, all those words, they will be having no grammar, but they will be there. And as the baby grows into a child at age of 10 or 12, those words will get grammar. They will be added with the vibhaktis, the cases, and full-fledged language of the mother tongue will be imposed through the school and through the family. and the baby will abandon its own language and instead use mother's language, mother tongue. So even after the mother tongue is used, or even when the baby grows to old age like you and me, of course, we were all babies once upon a time. If there anybody here who was not a baby, raise your hand. So after growing up to adulthood, the same thing happens inside the mind, though the languages, many languages have been learned. Ultimately, what is there in the mind is only objects, stream of objects. So knowledge is nothing but a stream of objects. So I defined a BNF grammar with the help of one faculty of IIIT Hyderabad and Professor Venkat. I defined the BNF grammar. Knowledge is a stream of objects, and objects can be either entities or activities. If they are entities, then they will have certain minimum attributes like gender, number, case. If they are activities, they will have attributes like person, that is first person, second person, third person, and number and tense. Tense or mood. These are the minimum attributes, and maybe more attributes can be there. So any sentence, if you analyze it by string processing, you can identify the entities and activities, and by identifying the attributes of the entity in the case ending, Ramko, Ramke liye, Ramasya, Ramuni Korako, whatever is there at the end of the word, you can identify its vibhakti. So if you take the sentence Ram ne Ravan ko mara, so you can see that ne is there, so it is Pradhama vibhakti, Ram bracket 1, and Rama is masculine, we know, gender and is singular. So gender, number, case, Ram bracket 1 comma 1 comma 1, and Ravan bracket 2 comma 1 comma 1, because ko is Dvidya vibhakti and is also masculine. So, and it is singular. So 2 comma 1 comma 1. And Mara, if the verb is Marna, Mar, and the tense is past tense, 3. So if you take present tense as 1 and future tense as 2 and past tense as 3. And it is singular. And third person. Who killed Ravana? Rama killed. I mean, he, not I or you. So it become Mar bracket 3 comma 1 comma 1. So this is the frame, knowledge frame, equivalent of that sentence. And that frame will be same if you analyze the sentence in any language. Like Ramudu Ravanani champenu, Rama killed Ravana. So any language, it doesn't matter. If you know how to analyze the word in the language and find out this gender, number, case, etc., then it will be the same. So this is knowledge frame, independent of language. That means we have extracted knowledge from the sentence, independent of language. So this is called object knowledge model. And recently, I have extended this model for non-linguistic objects. These are all linguistic objects, but if you have, say, IoT objects or stream objects, then there could be a type added and units added. And so therefore, we made the extension or flexibility for not only text, but also for data streams or for any other. And then we extended that BNF grammar by adding this object ID, object type, object units, in addition to the textual NLP-based object attributes like gender, number, case. These things are also added for the object and also for activities. So this model, extended OKM, is now offered as a model for big data, because big data has volume, velocity, and variety. Volume can be taken care by data lakes offered in a platform called Kafka. Velocity data streams can be taken care by Kafka, and variety, which is text or stream or any numeric or whatever it is, that is also being taken care. So this extended OKM is the only model available for big data. I gave that paper to you in that group. You can read that and get back to me if you have any doubts. And it is also a model for semantic web, because semantic web, which is different from the normal syntactic web which we are using today, is supposed to capture knowledge, and we are able to capture knowledge. So in that paper, I have covered both big data and semantic web, and OKM as the basic model for both big data and semantic web. And what is OKM? Is nothing but the mathematical model of the Sanskrit language, about which we are all interested and we are all meeting here. So this is the research topic for the first. Okay, now I'll go to the second, that is Viman Shastra. I have already given a lecture on Viman Shastra. Please refer to that. I have put it in the group also. There is only one member, but now some more members will be there. In the lecture on Viman Shastra under VSS, I have shown how I have deciphered some of the materials, new metals and glasses and ceramics, and I have shown the objects also. They are there here with me, and they all how they turned out to be novel. They don't exist, for example, among all the 36 copper alloys given in the American Society of Metals reference book, ASM 1981-88. 36 copper alloys are there. All are given C grade for corrosion to salt. That is sodium chloride. If you immerse any of the existing copper alloys in 4% saturated sodium chloride solution, they will start losing weight due to corrosion at the rate of 2 milligrams per day. So you can see how much they will lose. Whereas if you use this particular alloy, which we reproduced by deciphering the Viman Shastra text, it will be 1000 times less, 0.0002. Almost negligible. So it turned out to be non-existing in the modern technology. So it was patented. Of course, I was associated with the Birla Science Center and the Birla Institute of Scientific Research. And similarly, another copper alloy which was used in Viman Shastra for the Vakra Prasarana Yantra, that is taking the Vimana in reverse gear or Sarpa Tiryagam, like a snake-like motion, zigzag motion. So that particular alloy, when we reproduced, it turned out to be harder than steel. The Young's modulus of steel is 15. The Young's modulus of this alloy was 16.9. So using which I could reproduce the Vakra Prasarana Yantra gearbox wheels, 16 gear wheels. So I have that. I showed that also in my lecture. You can see VSS Viman Shastra lecture I gave on 25th May or so. And similarly, I have produced Tamogarbha Loha, which was used in Tamo Yantra of Viman Shastra for absorption of light of all kinds. It's like a black body. It's a lead alloy. And we have done the experiments in the physics department of Usman University, where we have proven that, where we could record that it absorbs 79% of laser impinged upon it. So this also was patented. All these are patented from Viman Shastra, and both materials, alloys, glasses and ceramics, and also machines. A lot more can be done. So those who are genuinely interested, they can join hands in studying the Viman Shastra and reproducing something out of it. There are there are hundreds of items that can be reproduced by deciphering the formula and the procedure to reproduce. Now I'll come to the third item, Dharma Yoga. Now what has happened? About 5-6 years ago, I was, as you know, I teach yoga. From day after tomorrow, I'm teaching yoga to all of you. So about 5-6 years ago, the Indian Railways at Secunderabad and Kachiguda, they approached me for yoga. So I was chief guest for a yoga day, 21st June. And after that, they requested me to teach yoga. And when I was teaching yoga, one of the officers there, the medical officer, she's a lady, a Sikh lady, Dr. Raminder Kaur. Her husband is a Sikh preacher at Canada. She lives here. They have a son. So she became close disciple of mine in yoga. And then she recommended my name to one interfaith dialogue held at Kolkata. And I was invited there and I gave a lecture, which was declared as the best lecture in that international interfaith meet. After that, at the Henry Martin Institute, which organized that event, which is located at Shivarampalli at Hyderabad, they organized more than 15-20 activities. And I gave lectures on behalf of Hinduism in those dialogues where the other speakers were coming from other religions. So then I got an idea to find something common, interfaith. It's not just somehow you dialogue and somehow you accept, all right, fine, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, Hindus all live together without killing each other. Is that all, or is there anything more deeper? Is there anything common, or nothing is common? So I formed a group of scholars belonging to different religions, and it took many years to do this search of finding the common ground. Normally they think there is no common ground. Normally they think they are all independent and different, and therefore you have to fight with each other. But when we did this research with the academic scholars, overall faculty members and PhDs in their own subjects, like there was a PhD in Arabic and Quran, who was a faculty member at Henry Martin Institute, Sayyid Wahid Multani. And there was a faculty member who was doing research in Bible, one young man from Nagaland. And similarly, there was one person from Sikhism, and from Buddhism and Jainism, who were doctorates and were faculty members doing research in their respective fields. So what has happened is that we started authoring a book, joint book, where I have produced around 9 chapters. First and last, and one or two in between are authored by me. So total 3 or 4 chapters. First and last were totally authored by me, and some other chapters are partially authored by me. And all the other chapters were not authored by me. They were authored by the respective religious scholars, Buddhist, so Jain, and Muslim and Christian. Unfortunately, we could not get anybody from Judaism. Even Sikhism, we could not get an author. They escaped finally. But we got the hang of it by discussing with them. So I discovered that there is common ground, there is a lot of common ground. In fact, the common ground is so much, it is more than the uncommon ground. This is not known fact. It is a new discovery. And that common ground, I gave a name called Dharma Yoga, common framework. What is common? Acceptable to everyone. It's like, LCM. We have this least common multiple, right? So in that LCM, that will be there common to all the numbers given. Like if you take 3, 9, 18, 27. What is LCM? 3 is the LCM. 27 may be a big number, but 3 is the LCM. So what is that LCM? Between religious texts, not religious people, or not religious opinions, or not religious statements, etc., but texts themselves. Only the text. The master or major text in that religion. So now I'll explain to you what is Dharma Yoga. I have already sent some of the chapters and videos. Recently, The Sattva TV took a series of video recordings. We called back some of those authors, and we have taken, and even this week something was recorded. Next Sunday it will come. Next Sunday at 9 a.m. in Sattva TV, continuation of the Dharma Yoga series will come, which was already delivered previously. I have sent those videos in the group also. So now the first chapter is authored by me, which is a common framework not only for all religions but also for science, because science doesn't believe in God. Atheists and science don't believe in God, but still the LCM, something common is there. And what is that? So to understand that, the first thing you have to understand, say, the Hindu framework, Vedas, because on the basis of Vedas, all the other Hindu framework originated. So we have in Vedas the mantras. Each mantra has 3 parameters. One is Devata, subject. What is Devata was not known to most of the people. Even today, most people don't know. The second is Rishi, and third is Chandas. Chandas is the meter. Rishi is the deliverer. So now what is Devata was not known to most of the people. So I did a lot of investigation. I met a lot of scholars. I asked them, and I realized that according to Nirukta, which is the etymology text for Vedic Sanskrit, Devata does not mean exactly like what we think in common terms, God or goddess, but it means a subject. Any subject. Suppose you have a telephone. Suppose you want to tell something on telephone, you can say telephone Devata. Or if you say earth, earth is the subject on which you want to tell something. That is called Bhu Devata. And in the Veda, there is a description given by in the Veda for hymns about that Bhu Devata. Or if there is a telephone Devata. Or sun, Savita Devata. So entire description. There is a whole chapter called Arunam, Sauram. They'll explain the functions of sun. Similarly about earth, Bhu Devata, Bhu Suktam is their whole chapter explaining functions of earth. Then I realized that Veda is nothing but a description of various forces of nature and their functions. And what is science? Science is nothing but a description, study and a description of the various roles and functions of forces of nature. Correct? So both are same. The word science also means Veda, the word Veda also means science. Because in Czech language, Czechoslovakia, in the city of Prague, there is an Institute of Veda. Actually, it is Institute of Science. So the tragedy or comedy is that in India, it's called Institute of Science. And in Czechoslovakia, it's called Institute of Veda. So both are same. That means at that time, during the time of Rig Veda or Ajurveda, those days, the word science was expressed by the word Veda, and all the descriptions of natural forces, powers of nature, or devatas, are explained there. For example, if you take Adharva Veda, which is a scientific text giving the medicinal properties of herbs and metals, so he gives there, Prishniparni Devata. What is Prishniparni? Prishniparni is a plant. So, oh Prishniparni, you are so great. You can cure, say, leprosy or this or that. So that's a medical description of the properties of that plant. So in this way, entire Veda is nothing but a repository of knowledge of functions and roles played by the forces of nature, entities of nature. I hope you understood what I'm saying. Now what happens in Puranas is that these Devatas become personified. Agni Dev will come and talk, he'll give a statement, and Bhu Devata will come and say something. Now, for example, there's a description during the time of Pruthu Chakravarti. Pruthu was the emperor. So Bhu Devata came weeping with her hair stretched, saying that I became weak, I cannot give food. What does this mean? That means the earth was polluted, it became uncultivable, and therefore agriculture was not possible. Like even today, there are many portions on earth which are uncultivable wastelands or polluted wastelands. Like in Hyderabad, outskirts, is a place called Patancheru. If you go there and dig, you'll get red water. It is so highly polluted with the chemical industries around it. So what Prudhu did was, he has done some yajna or some other treatment to Bhudevata, after which she became healthy. And she said, okay, now I am healthy, I'll give food. And it is giving food. That means agriculture was possible. So this kind of description of what is called the metaphorical or allegoric alankara, like Rupaka alankara, so is there in the Puranas. Because Bhudevata is not a human being to cry with the hair and all that. But it is explained like as if it's a human character. So when you go to Ashtalakshmi temple, you will find the Ashtalakshmi is having saris and sitting there like human beings. Are they human beings? 8 forms of wealth and good things in life. Money, children, victory. They are not human beings. But they are just being depicted. Why so far take Saraswati? Who is Saraswati? Is Saraswati a human being? Does she have a mobile phone number? Saraswati is knowledge. And knowledge is personified. And when knowledge is personified, it is called Saraswati. And wealth of different types, 8 types of wealth personified is known as Lakshmi. They are not human beings. Similarly, every other Devata, you take any Devata, except of course the avatars like Rama, who lived as a human being and died as a human being. But all other Devatas who are not humans, they are only forces of nature, powers of nature, or descriptions of abstract entities. And now the most important point, each one of the Devatas is only one part of the totality. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Jnana Shakti is Saraswati, Ichha Shakti is Lakshmi, Kriya Shakti is Durga. There is no person called Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. Their principles are their forces. They are being personified as Rupaka Alankara. Like you can say, as you know, those who live in Delhi, a few years ago, many years ago, Vayudeva in Delhi was in ICU. Then the Supreme Court passed a judgment that only CNG should be used for the buses, no diesel. Then Vayudeva possibly came out of ICU for a short while, and now he is back to ICU because of the stubble fire from Haryana and Punjab. So this is the kind of description given in the Puranas or even some parts of Vedas also, personification. Like Lakshmi is personified in Sri Suktam. Padme Sthitam, Padmavarnam, some color, some description. Now take Saraswati, which is knowledge. Knowledge can be expressed as books. So Saraswati has one hand with a book. Knowledge can be expressed as music, so it has Veda. Knowledge can be expressed as Mala. So Mala is there. So knowledge is being expressed in the shape and form of Saraswati, who is not a human being. And similarly, Lakshmi and so on, and Vayu, Agni. Now if you take Agni, now Agni Deva is the Havya Vahana. He carries the Havyas. Whatever homa you do, he carries to the Devatas. Who are the Devatas? Agni, Vayu, Bhu, all these are. So whatever ahutis you are giving, they'll be carried by Agni, they'll be burnt into fumes, and they'll be spread. So this understanding, this decipherment was not there before I wrote this paper. And then I extended that logic into explaining what is polytheism, what is pantheism, and what is monotheism. So each of these devata is only one window. Knowledge is one window. Wealth is another window. Action is another window. And so also Surya, Agni, Surya is one window. Agni is another window. Window to totality, Brahman, Parabrahm. The word Brahman comes from Brihatva, totality. So these are all parts. So all windows, like you say, what is a car? If you put your hand on the car steering, this is car. If you put a hand on the bonnet, this is car. If you put a hand on the engine, this is car. All are car only. Similarly, all these devatas are divine being, the supreme personality, Brahman. They are all parts and pieces, windows to Brahman. This is the first chapter, please. So when you take this first chapter, then you realize that science is integrated. No scientist can refuse what I told. So the common framework for Veda, Puranas, and science. That is the nature of the first chapter. The second chapter, we went one step further. We took Dharma, ethical values, like truth, honesty, non-stealing, non-cheating, non-violence, charity, generosity, purity, all this. We have taken 18 ethical values, which are very popular, common. And then we wrote a big matrix table. Where are these being referred? In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Yoga Sutras, in the Upanishads, or even in the Veda. We have written down in one column for Hindu scriptures. Then we also try to locate them in other religious texts. Not I and you cannot do, the concerned experts. They were told to find out where is non-stealing mentioned in the Bible or in Quran. So they have done the search. Because they know it in and out, every word they know. They located, yes, thou shalt not steal. This is the one of the commandments. So they said, yes, here is a reference. Similarly in Quran, I don't know Arabic, but my co-authors knew Arabic very well. Mushtaq Ahmad, Masood Ali Khan, they were there in that video also. They say, yes, in Quran also, you should not steal. That is mentioned. Similarly, Brahmacharyam, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. This is one of the commandments. Similarly, in Quran, don't take somebody else's wife. That much they know, but they don't know what is complete brahmacharya. This is one part of brahmacharya, but something is part of it only. Similarly, every one of the ethical values. Surprisingly, what was not known, that all these 18, which are taken out of the Yamanemas and Dharma Lakshanas of Manu, Dhriti, Kshama, Dhamma, Shauchamasteyo, Indriya Nigraha, Dhir, Vidya, Satyam, Akrodho, Dashakam, Dharma Lakshanam, 10 Dharma Lakshanas he has given. And Yamanemas, Satya, Himsa, Brahmacharya, Astaya, Parigraha, Shaucha, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya, Isvara, Pranidhara. And 26 Daivi Sampat, Abhayam, Sattva Samshuddhi, Jnana, Yoga, Vyavasthiti, Dhanam, Damascha, Yajnascha, Swadhyaya, Tapa, Arjavam, Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodha, Tagakshanti, Rapaishlam, Daya, Bhutesh, Valolutvam, Mardavam, Hari, Rachapalam, Tejakshama, Dhriti, Shaucham, Adroho, Nabimanita. So this 26 Daivi Sampat of 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and the 10 Yamanayamas of Patanjali and 10 Dharma Lakshanas of Manu are having commonality. And out of which 18 alone we have taken, avoiding some of the very advanced things. Those 18 are existing. Not only in Buddha Sutras, Jaina Sutras, 6 scriptures, of course Hindu scriptures, but they exist even in Bible and Quran. That was a shocking discovery, because people of one religion think other religions are fools. All the people who follow other religions are idiots, if not criminals. So that was not true, because even in those scriptures, it is mentioned. Because I don't know, the concerned scholars gave the references. So this was second chapter. So third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth chapters are expansion of the same. So there's a chapter on Hindu scriptures. Wherever these references are given in second chapter, that chapter expands further on each one of those ethical values. And similarly, the chapter by Christians on Bible and chapter on Quran expanding the same thing by giving more detailed reference quotation. Not adding any commentary, but only quotations. So, similarly for the Buddhism, Buddha Sutras, we had a Buddhist scholar called Jaina Sutras for Jainism. And we found these common principles. You take, for example, the 5 fundamental yamas, they are called Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Asteya, Aparigrah. These are the core foundational values for civilization itself. And they found themselves in the law books. In any country you go, the law will contain the same. Non-stealing, non-cheating or non-lies, non-violence, non-chastity. All these are mentioned there. And abrogation, any kind of abrogation is punishable by law. That is law. And even right from the Hammurabi Code of the Akkadians and Assyrians, is nothing but this, eye for an eye. So the law was generated from Dharma. So I proved that Dharma is common for all religions. And even the non-religious, the atheists, the DK, DMK, atheist, agnostic, skeptic, scientific community, they will have to accept the ethics because that is law. Most scientists can say, you can cheat, you can steal, you can tell lies, you can harm. So it is a common framework, Dharma, and that's why it is called Dharma Yoga. And now the second part of the commonality is yoga itself, the process of yoga, the process of concentration, meditation. Please mute your mics. Mute your mics. So the yoga processes are also found to be common, even though some religions don't accept God, like Buddhism, Jainism don't accept Ishvara or Creator. They accept yoga and accept Dharma in core, in full. So Buddha himself performed yoga, abhyasa, samadhi, meditation, pranayama, all those things, which we'll be covering from day after tomorrow for 1 month yoga course. I and my colleagues from VYV Japit will take all the classes on yoga. And if you look at the namaz also, you have the yoga postures in it, Vajrasana and Surya Namaskara involved in it. And Bhakti Yoga is common for theistic religions, those who believe in God. Though Buddhism, Jainism don't believe in God, they do have Bhakti on their own gurus, Buddha himself, or on their Arihantas, that is their saints, Sramanas. So Bhakti Yoga, which is given in the Bhagavad Gita 12th chapter. Bhagavad Gita 18 chapters are giving 18 yogas. If you drop some of the extreme yogas, we have the basic yogas of Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is common for all religions, apart from the Raja Yoga of meditation, concentration. So we proved that Dharma Yoga is a common framework for all religions. And even science, non-religions, even atheists. Then the last item I want to touch in Dharma Yoga is the nature of divine being, supreme being, God, Ishwar, whatever you say. So we had this video recording of the TV this Monday. It will be broadcast on Sunday at 9 a.m. Sattva TV. Surprisingly, in that discussion, what turned out was, who is God? Well, I mean, we are talking of those who accept the existence of God. Atheists, agnostics, skeptics, and scientific community don't accept the existence of God. That's fine. Basically, there are 3: the individual Jiva and Jagat, the universe, and third is Ishvara or creator. So either all the 3 are same, or 2 are same, or 1 is same. So in science, there is no Ishvara. The creation itself, the nature itself evolves on its own, it creates itself. So nature itself is Ishvara and nature also both. And in religions, we have Advaita, Advaita, Visishtadvaita, saying whether Jiva is different from Ishvara or Jiva is same as Ishvara. And Advaita, all the 3 are one and the same, packed together. Jagat Mithya, Jagat doesn't exist. Only Brahman exists, Brahma Satyam. And Jiva Brahmayana Paraha. Jiva is not separate, he is also part of Brahman only. And Visishtadvaita, initially they are different, but they will merge. And Dvaita, they will never merge, they will be different. Jiva and Ishvara, they will become close. Sarupya, Salokya, Sayujya. So only some approach differences are there, but all the three finally are telling this only. So I finished my Dharma Yoga description. So nature of God is same in all the different religions, even though their descriptions, procedures may vary. So I want to stop here and I want to open for discussion.
Anybody who wants to ask, KM Rao garu?
Sir, on the first project, University of Hyderabad, Amba Kulkarni, the Professor Amba Kulkarni, on the Sanskrit studies, computational model, Samsadhani. She has been doing some work on this project, sir. Ashtadhani, decoding, etc. So our project is anything to do with that, or it's different?
Yeah, I'll explain. Now I know her too well. She's my very good friend, and she also learned yoga from me. So we are quite close. I know very well what she has done. She attended our presentations, project details. That Samsadhani is a translator from Sanskrit to Hindi. Understand what I'm saying? So it is similar to, it is partly having commonality, but that Samsadhani is not yet mature. It is not completed. It is partially done. She is looking for people to contribute to complete it. She wants full-time employees.
Yeah. It's basically she's looking for people. I have
But
done on the Raghuvamsam.
But that is only for translation into Hindi, that's all. But I'm talking of something else, you heard it.
Okay.
She knows about my OKM, and I've written many papers, and I wrote a book also. I got a PhD also.
Okay.
It is related, but narrow focus on Hindi outcome only. Okay, next question.
Thank you.
Okay, Vishwanath garu. Unmute.
Sir, Namaskaram. My name is Vishwanath.
Yes.
As a part of this research project, what are we supposed to do? What is our role?
You have to read thoroughly and understand, and then discuss.
Okay.
You can discuss with me. We have a WhatsApp group for each group.
Okay.
You can have personal discussions. Then you can come out with some ideas, solutions, extensions, papers, book.
Within this 1 month or even further?
Beyond this.
Beyond. Okay. So
If you have genuine interest, it's only for those who have genuine interest. Commitment.
Okay.
Okay, Gautam ji.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar. Sir, actually, suppose I want to come to Hyderabad, can there be any hostel facility or something like that? Or staying and associating with you?
Yeah, we can arrange paid accommodation. Of course, I hope you will pay for the rooms.
Yes.
We'll arrange something. We have a place called Taramati Bardari, which is close to my house here.
I see.
There is a resort, and there are a large number of rooms.
Oh.
And there are more than 100, 200 rooms.
So
mostly they are vacant.
So when it is, you'll prefer to
Anytime.
join?
You are welcome. Gautam Mukherjee, you are welcome. I'm also Mukherjee. I'm a Bharat. You are most welcome anytime, any day. My house is very near.
all that will topic discuss. I have lot of questions, but it will be
Yeah,
very
absolutely,
elaborate. So
absolutely.
better to come to you and then discuss with you.
Yeah, I'll be very, very happy to interact with you if you come here, really, all the way from Kolkata. So I will welcome you. Yeah.
Okay. Now, can we have some questions about tomorrow's examinations? Anybody wants to ask any question? Before that, I want to make a few announcements. One is regarding the topic we are talking about, the projects, those people who, there are around 60 people who have opted and they have been included in the groups. But there are some more remaining 40 people, they have not. So they can, we have sent the link. So you can, use that link and opt for it. Okay. And next one is about that test. It will be an online test. The link will be given to you tomorrow in the chat box after taking the attendance. So you can, click on that and answer the questions. When you click on that, I will just show you how you have, some people have already attempted this online test, but some people have not. So I will one minute. Online test will be something like this. Somehow I'm not stop sharing. You see, now you get like this quiz test, some Shodasa Samskarams. This is the test we have.